spirit of a 9-hour endurance race, hour and a half endurance race with some teams having one driver, some teams having two drivers, and it's a fairly small field, Francois, but I think depleted because a number of entrants had been racing just about the entire day.
Correct. This was by 4 o'clock on the Sunday afternoon. I think a lot of people were tired, but the cars were tired. But it's great to see that the guys all turned out strongly to come and run this race. You can see Robbie Smith, who teamed up with Mike O'Sullivan in the BMW to come and do this. Pretorius in the 1984 956. Obviously the quickest car in the field, but taking the time and the effort to come and race the car for an hour and a half after a long weekend's racing. Number of loader 7s, you can see everybody mucks in, comes, enjoys themselves. There goes Sean Pierce in the MG. I think he shared it with his dad, and it really turned into lovely endurance racing.
Now, endurance racing in South Africa, we used to see it, and the 9-hour obviously was a jewel in the crown, but unfortunately that seemed to have fallen off. Do you think there's any opportunity in the future to revive this form of racing?
Hendrik, the guys really are trying. The Sports Racing Association is trying to put together a series of endurance races next year, and we hope that this takes off. Obviously we have to encourage people to come and do endurance racing. It is expensive, and it is a category of racing in this country that needs some support.
I think the last time that there was anything like a national endurance race was the production car 6-hour, 7-hour, 9-hour sponsored by Castrol down in Cape Town. That also died down, but I'm not sure how one can go about reviving it. I think it would depend on the spectacular cars. If one can get some spectacular sports cars involved there, then certainly the crowds would be there, the television would be there, and everything would fall into place.
I'm pretty sure that's what's going to happen, Hendrik. There are some sponsors waiting along the lines who actually want to see sports car racing come to the fore, and then people will bring the cars. We'll have some GT cars running, hopefully some of the Porsches that can run there as well, and slowly but surely grow the fields into a form of racing that spectators would enjoy and come out and come and watch.
And endurance racing, sports car racing, Le Mans, that type of thing, as we see one of the Birkins or Lotus 7s can't quite make it out going off there, that is something that can be done by drivers that don't necessarily have to be in their teens or early 20s.
Correct. And the other thing about endurance racing, Hendrik, it's all about strategy. It's about using the grey matter to win the race. So it does get hectic over there, and we have
like young
Pierce parking, and there he is, Harry Lombard, unfortunately parking the Beetle. This Beetle has done so many races over the weekend.
Getting to a pit stop here. Number 84, that's Derek van der Merwe, handing over to Amelia van As. They're driving a little Birkin 7. And here's that little BMW 2002, driven by Mike O'Sullivan and Robbie Smith. This is another classic road sports car, isn't it?
Absolutely wonderful, and it's a very well prepared car. Came up from Cape Town. Robbie's been spending the whole weekend driving it, so at least he's given Mike a chance now. I think Robbie actually even got the driver of the meeting award for all his driving over the weekend.
Getting very busy in the pits now as some of the teams change drivers and do some refueling. As you say, it all depends on strategies. We see the 956 going through, France Pretorius, and this
is Kevin Bassett coming in for a pit stop. You can see it's a family sport, everybody coming to help. Taken off a bit of body work, he must have had some contact somewhere getting it out of the way. And here Robbie now takes over from Mike O'Sullivan and starts leaving the pits to go and rejoin the circuit.
Robbie Smith these days a professional stunt driver, as there's some smoke pouring out of the Lotus Cortina's engine.
I think it's a leak.
Which is a bit unfortunate to see a historic car, all the spoil coming out all over the place. Hopefully it's just something small that they sprung a leak on the pipe and it wasn't too badly damaged.
Right, it is endurance racing, so the cars are pushed, and they're pushed for a long time, and that's what Robbie Smith is doing at the moment. They're using up some of the rubber on his wheels.
Trying to catch two low tie. Hendrik calls it two Lotuses. I never know which way to say it.
Mongooses, BMW.
But once again, the Charles Arton car from Cape Town brought the car up here to come and have a weekend's worth of racing. Really enjoyed themselves. France Pretorius in the background, lights blazing, having to find his way through the field. With a car like that, it's so much quicker. You actually have to be careful, find your place to park, make sure you don't get involved in an accident.
It's such a beautiful sports car that, to me, still one of the most good-looking, the best-looking sports cars, the Porsche 957. That era, certainly the golden era of sports car racing.
Absolutely, and the 956 to me is just one of the icons. It is a beautiful car. Once again, the Arton BMW on its way down to, and here we go, France Pretorius coming in for a quick pit stop. Now it's taking the refueler away, and out goes France.
Well, this is right at the end of the race.
On the last lap, and as he goes rolling out, he's going to take the checkered flag as he goes over the line.
So no surprises there as Franz Pretorius. Oh, is he going to make it to the line? Yes, he is. There it is. The checkered flag is out. And Franz Pretorius wins the endurance race to bring to a close the Bosal Classic Car Africa Festival here at Wesbank Raceway. Ahead of James Forbes, Kevin Bassett and Robbie Smith and Michael Sullivan in fourth position. On behalf of Franz Pretorius, Hendrik Verwoerd saying goodbye from Wesbank and looking forward to next year. 2005 Classic Car Africa Festival was proudly brought to you by Bosal and its associate sponsors.
Other than that, nearly as old as Dion himself, recently the Bosal Classic Car Africa Festival showed off some of the country's greatest mean machines of yesteryear. Brian Abrahams was there.
Cars don't get older, they just become classic. Welcome to the Bosal Classic Car Africa Festival, a two-day event showcasing the best classic cars that yesteryear has to offer.
Over 400 competitors took part in this celebration of motoring nostalgia at Wesbank Raceway last month. There were cars of all shapes, sizes and ages, very much like their drivers really.
Tell us, what is the attraction of racing a vintage car as opposed to a regular stock car?
Racing historic cars is really about showing people what a period car did in its time and giving you an opportunity to compare it to the modern race car. It's also about preserving the heritage of motorsport in this country, and there are a lot of really interesting, very important historic racing cars around, and obviously this is one of them.
Built in 1969 by Bosal Green, this Ford Piranha has an engine and a front suspension taken from a GT40. It's the only Group 5 Piranha left in the world and is almost exactly as it was when it won the championship in 1970. Even the brakes are the same. But not all the cars on show were original. These two low-slung mean machines are replicas, although it would take a practiced eye to tell the difference.
This is a Ford GT40, the recreation of the 1969 Le Mans winner, which is driven by my hero, Jackie X. And we've tried to make this car as close as possible to the original. It has a 5.7-litre V8 motor, which produces 471 horsepower, which is about 370-odd kilowatts. It's really awesome. It does sort of throw you back in the seat. Give us an idea of the cost involved in building a replica of this specific standard. The basic car will start out as a normal road car at about 540,000 Rand. And then what we do is we need to change the brakes and add fire extinguishers and add extra roll cages. The rims get changed to put wider and stickier rubber onto them, and so that it's closer to the original. And it ends up being about 640,000 Rand for a complete race-ready car like this.
But you don't necessarily have to fork out 600,000 Rand to get a piece of the action. This one was obtained for absolutely nothing.
We actually picked it up in the fault. I mean, we found the shell lying on the fault had been stripped, but we didn't recognize it for what it was, and we've rebuilt it. It was actually remarkably easy to rebuild because the chassis and the body come apart and a little rust, but it's an exciting car, something different.
The Golden Hawk was born when US car maker Studebaker decided to put a V8 engine into a sports saloon. This particular 1958 model has been modified, but it still runs on the original drum brakes at the rear, which makes it rather a handful on the track. That, though, is half the fun.
You can't brake as late and all that, so you work on the handling, try and make the car turn better, and those kind of things. But that's the challenge of historic racing, is to try and show the spectator what the old car could do. The challenge for me is, I want to drive this car as fast, if not faster, than the guys drove it then.
Chasing lap times is old hat for Peter, but for at least one entrant, it was all new.
Yeah, it was my first race today. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Firstly, you're dealing with a bunch of really, really nice guys. I think it's a privilege to be able to drive a Porsche, any kind of Porsche, and then getting out there is just, it's mind-blowing.
Were you happy with your performance?
I was delighted with my performance, you know. I think we started with a field of 22 and I came 11.
Master Porsche. For those of you not in the know, This little beauty behind me is a Lotus Super 7. Now, it might look like the kind of car that carried Noddy and Big Ears, aka Mike and Gary, about in the merry little adventures, but don't be fooled. This is a serious motor car.
It's the closest thing that you're going to get to superbike horsepower on four wheels without spending a couple of million rand.
This Lotus 7 replica has a Toyota engine and a home-built chassis. It took 18 months and lots of patience to build. But Paul says it was well worth it.
It's just great to be out here. It's the old cars at a day like this to look back on the history of the Mustangs, the old Porsches. It's just so great that all of these cars are still in the country and that we're able to see them out on the circuit being used.
That's the most awesome thing, is to drive one of those cars that one of my heroes drove. And that's why I have this car. It's absolutely awesome. And it just takes me back to my childhood in such a way I can't describe. If there's one thing I've learned today, is that classic cars don't belong in a museum. They don't belong in some shelf, rusted away and abandoned. They belong at events like this, in the public eye, where they can be appreciated for their power, their precision and their pure beauty. That just seems right.
A fun day out there.